How My Mind Has Changed. It's the title of this series of articles that I've been reading. One of them was written by Barbara Brown Taylor, who had been an Episcopal priest, sort of actively serving a parish, and has shifted into other sorts of things in her life, including teaching at a college in Georgia, Piedmont. And as she was reflecting on this question of how my mind's changed, she recounted a story of driving by a little country church, and it had this sign that said, "Come on in. God has been waiting for you here." And as she was reflecting on it, she said, I find it hard to believe that anyone still believes that anymore. Because she said, if God is, waiting for us anywhere, God's waiting for us everywhere. Come on in, God's waiting for you in here. It seems, she wrote this before COVID, but, especially during the times of COVID, if people have learned anything, beyond those crucial lessons of how we love and care for our neighbor and are cared for by those who are on the front lines, healthcare and all these other places serving as education. If we've learned anything, it's that God's not isolated in some building, like waiting for us to come in. Which isn't to say that, don't get me wrong, that God's not in the building, because God is everywhere. But we've learned during these times how to find God in the midst of all these different things. She had gone on, Barbara Brown Taylor, to quote Wendell Berry, who said that there are no, how did he word it? There are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. There are no unsacred places. This morning I was looking at this tree behind me, and actually you can see the branch I'm talking about. I don't know if I can show you. It's this branch here. It extends out like 40 feet. So this last summer, as I was watching the sun go by, I was like, I'm cutting that branch off. Because it's so extensive over a garden that it creates all this shade that I don't really want there anymore. And then this morning, I see this little red squirrel, and it makes its way, again, I don't know if I can point it out, makes its way like across that little branch, the oak tree branch. And then it goes from the very end of that branch, that branch will just kind of like tip right down, and then it like springs and grabs on, with, I don't know if it's all of its might or not. If I were the little red squirrel, I would have been using all of my might to get onto this little birch tree. And it goes down to the bottom of that branch, up the trunk. It knows exactly where to go. And then goes out that branch on the other side. And then it makes its way. The branch bends, it springs to the next one, grabs on, that branch drops, and then it runs its way, like across the branch of the maple tree, oak tree, birch tree, maple tree. And I don't know how far off it goes. I suspect it's making its way to a little nest somewhere in one of those trees. And then a little while later, like I see it coming back, like retracing its steps, bending branches, springing up, branch bending, climbing to the trunk. And then as it makes its way back across this oak branch over here, I'm just realizing, how does it skip and bound and spring all the way along there? Without at least what I would assume is this fear, consciousness of fear of, falling off. And I don't know if the red squirrel thinks about it or not. But I do suspect that it's all part of this unified view of the world. That it's all the holy places some get desecrated, but not forever. And as we look around, here or there, or everywhere, there's God. Not waiting for us to, like, come on in to a building, as if that were the place. But every little place. I wonder how your mind's changed.